Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. Hopefully everyone's doing well. It's Wednesday, September the 3rd. Another roasting day here as well, though we'll soon be complaining about it being cold. We've been talking for a while about Daniel Dubois, and Frank Warren had been saying that he was waiting to meet with Daniel Dubois and his father. And well, yesterday Frank Warren was interviewed by, I think it was Box Nation, probably by some of the other big ones as well. And he alluded to some of the things that were spoken about in the meeting between Queensberry and Team Dubois. Now, not unsurprisingly, he didn't really get into the weeds as to what was discussed, saying, look, it was a private meeting. But he did say some things which I think we can sort of read between the lines on, and we can draw certain conclusions. One of the things is that, first of all, Frank Warren said, look, Queensberry, we're the promoters. We put the fights together. We promote the fight, and clearly making a distinction between what he does, what Queensberry does, and what the manager of a fighter does, and what the coach of a fighter does. And I think that's fair. But he did say that when they are promoting a fighter, particularly a fighter they are invested in, and Frank Warren, when he was questioned, pointed out that he'd been invested in Daniel Dubois for 10 years, that when they're in that position, they expect that the fighter upholds their side of the deal, if you like. That he, Frank Warren, expects a fighter to do certain things. And he didn't specify what those things were, but he did say that certain things were done in the run-up to Usyk Dubois 2 that were, quote-unquote, totally unacceptable. And I suspect, my opinion only, that would include a party, or gathering, if you like, on the day of the fight. I suspect, just my opinion, that it also includes turning up, if not late, with insufficient time to properly prepare for the fight. So, as we know, Usyk already had his hands wrapped when Dubois was sort of walking his way through the parking lot at their fight at Wembley. He said that in the meeting between himself and Daniel Dubois, there was also Sam Jones, and there was Dave or Stan Dubois, in other words, Daddy Dubois, and his son George, Frank Warren's son George. Just my guess, but I suspect that a lot of talking was being done by Frank Warren, including probably a bit of wagging a finger and shoulder rolling, because it was clear from the interview that the Box Nation was conducting that Frank Warren was still not happy. He said that Daniel Dubois has to learn from this, that he must rebuild himself for his sake, and that if he doesn't learn from this, whatever this was, without getting into the weeds, then the only person it will hurt will be Daniel. I think Frank Warren has long favored Daniel Dubois, but my sense from watching the interview and sort of reading the tea leaves, if you like, is that this probably, it's worn a bit thin, shall we say. His patience appeared to be not overly deep for Dubois. I suspect that his patience is probably worn quite thin with respect to Daddy Dubois. But again, that's just my editorializing. which really is why you watch this channel, right? It's not like I can, roll up Daniel Dubois and Frank Warren here. I'm just a guy, a fan, same as you. He was asked about Team Dubois firing the bitterest man in boxing, Don Charles. And you could see that Frank Warren wasn't overly pleased with that either. And probably not because of the personalities involved, but because, as Frank Warren said on a number of occasions, he likes to see a fighter settled. He doesn't like chopping and changing. He prefers to see a fighter stay with somebody, settled, consistent, building that relationship. And he did point out, quite correctly, as much as I don't like Don Charles, I'll give credit where credit's due, that Don Charles had provided Dubois with, whatever he provided him to get him 3 really good wins on the bounce. After his first loss to Usyk, where he quit off a jab, he rebuilt him so that he was able to stop Big Baby Miller, the PED aficionado, stop Filip Hrgovic, and absolutely wiped the floor with Anthony Joshua. And Kieran Farrell, whose name wasn't mentioned in the interview, and Don Charles must get credit for that, surely. He did say that he was going to get Daniel Dubois back in, and at a high level. He said if he wants to have a seat at the top table, he can only have that seat at the top table by having big wins, which makes sense, right? I mean, this business of, knocking out a low-level opponent just to, rebuild your confidence? Well, I mean, that all seems bogus to me. It always has, to be honest with you. He did say that down the road, it would be a great fight if Dubois and Moses Itoma could get it on. And I think we can all imagine a scenario whereby Itoma has a belt or 2 and Dubois possibly has a belt or 2. And for those guys to clash in, let's say, Wembley, would be truly spectacular. It would be the fight that we should have seen with Fury and AJ, but who knows? And ever increasingly, I'm thinking, who cares about that fight? As much as you know, I'd like to see that fight take place, just to draw a line under that era. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they're ever going to meet? I mean, if they meet in a couple of years' time, it'll be, Zimmer frames at dawn, won't it? But getting back to Dubois, I suspect that Frank Warren will throw Dubois back in at the deep end, and it'll be sink or swim time. He did say that Dubois has lots and lots of attributes. He said he's relatively quick on his feet, very big puncher, got a very, very good jab. What he didn't speak about, and he wasn't asked about, is does Daniel Dubois have the heart? Does Daniel Dubois have frankly speaking, what Anthony Joshua has? AJ kept on getting up. AJ didn't quit. But more to the point, can you imagine Daniel Dubois' skill sets with Fabio Wardley's heart? Now that would be a combo, wouldn't it? I suspect, again, just my opinion, that the new favourite in the Queensberry stable will be Moses. There was also some talk about Ajit Kabayel having a fight in Germany, which is, I really would like to see that happen. I can't wait to see Ajit Kabayel back in the ring. He talked about Lawrence Okoli. Lawrence Okoli apparently has a bicep injury, but he also said that Daniel Dubois has an injury. And I mean, wags amongst us might say that, lack of testicular fortitude would be the injury, but he didn't specify. I can't imagine what injury it was. He wasn't really doing very much for 5 rounds until he decided to sit down and then get up after the referee had finished counting. But hey, what do I know? So there we go. Frank Warren clearly not super happy with Team Dubois. I would have loved to have been in that room. I can just imagine it. Daniel sitting in the corner, Stan and Sam Jones taking a barrage from Uncle Frank and George. But hey, that's just my imagination running wild. Okay, that's all I've got for the moment. Have a fabulous day wherever you are. If you could you please hit the like button? And if you're watching this and you haven't yet subscribed, if you do me a solid and subscribe, that would be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye-bye.